We are here talking about the 2001 film She Creatures because we are covering 2025's Forbidden World Film Festival. I'm Mike from Genuine Chit-Chat. This is Dan from Spider Dan the Secret Boars. We've been tackling a lot of Forbidden World Film Festival stuff, so strap in. So, She Creatures, it's a film I'd never heard of. Mm-hmm. It's a film that, IMDb, there's only like 4,000 ratings of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's ever been properly released in the UK. Mm-hmm. And this was actually the secret screening. This was the thing no one knew about.
Mystery film.
Yes, it was the mystery film, which was quite exciting. But when he announced it, I think most people in the crowd were like, never heard of this.
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. But you knew about this because it's in a collection of something else. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a little while ago, again, like early 2000s, Stan Winston wanted to create some films, and he got the copyright to several AIP films, which is a company that Roger Corman used to work with until he left and did his own thing. And basically, they were like, we're going to do reinterpretations of these titles. So not so long ago, I watched Earth versus the Spider, which is a giant spider flick. Not very good, but I watched it kind of in conjunction with Eight-Legged Freaks and Big Ass Spider, which directly inspired both of those films.
Yeah.
But in that version, in his reinterpretation, it's a comic book fan who works as a security guard at a scientific place, injects a serum because he wants to be like Spider-Man, but then it becomes David Cronenberg's The Fly, but a spider.
Yeah.
So that's their reinterpretation. I'm not so familiar with this film. I think they called it The Attack of the Colossal Beast or something,
originally,
which they do reference. So that was the original film, the original title. I think there are female sea creature, kind of Creature of the Black Lagoon kind of esque films out there.
Yeah.
I think that the second title might be referring to another set of films, perhaps, or maybe another film they got the license to. But yeah, there was a few others that I'm less familiar with, but they were like lower budget for TV kind of feature films. But yeah, and I was kind of surprised. They talked about maybe getting a brand new film or a film that was coming out quite shortly, which they tried several attempts at. And they're always striving for perfection, Forbidden Worlds, which I appreciate. And the fact that they're trying to get something that's not even technically been released yet from a big studio is pretty kind of cool. And the fact that they can even have those conversations is amazing.
Yeah.
We'd be lucky to see that. But if not, I'm well happy with pulling a retro film out the VHS archives.
I almost would rather that. Obviously, it would be great to be able to say, "Oh, I've seen this new film," and I've been able to, see
exclusive preview screening of.
Obviously, for Forbidden World Film Festival, it's much better for them to do that, and I hope Ty, Dave, and the team really manage to do that because that's obviously what they would love to do. But for me personally, I'm like, when there's a new film that's out that you'd want to see, I'm like, well, either I'll go see it or it kind of comes onto streaming. Usually, guns are blazing. Whereas this film, I don't think you can even find it in the UK. Like when we spoke to Dave afterwards, who runs 20th Century Flicks, which is, he and Ty essentially put together and created for World Film Festival. After the show, I said to him, because I was like, I really like this movie. Really surprised me, didn't know anything about it. I'd love to. Is it available on home release? Can you buy it? And he has it on VHS, which I think is the version we saw. And he was like, I wanted to try and get it on DVD, 50 quid. And I was like, I don't like that much.
Massively out.
Like, I'm not paying 50 quid for this movie. Like I'd probably pay 20.
Yeah.
Like to be on DVD, I would pay 20 quid for this movie to own it because I think it's actually really cool and, definitely underrated. I mean, I'm so surprised on IMDb it's got 5.8. Hey guys, just a quick note to say you can actually watch She Creature online. They've got it on Amazon, they've got it on Apple TV and a few other places, I believe, in the UK. You can rent it or you can buy it and it's not too expensive. So I would say please go and check this out because I absolutely love the movie. Obviously, when you're partway in the review, you're going to hear a lot more about it, but please check it out if you can. It's a really, really cool film and it's only 90 minutes, so I would recommend. Anyway, back to the review.
Yeah,
it's not perfect, but
no, it's a very much like a genre TV production. And I think if you're there for it and you embrace it, I think given the budget and given the fact that it's a period piece, it is quite impressive.
Yeah.
Because they mostly, they've got the costuming, they've got the gear, they're on a boat,
yeah,
and it looks legit. I mean, it's Stan Winston. It's Stan Winston's,
exactly. Yeah.
This whole idea and him producing everything was his idea. We know he's great at practical and physical effects, and did Aliens and Terminator with Gale Anne Hurd, which we talked about a lot this weekend. But I think this is really fun, original. It has that B-movie vibe about it. Like you were saying, you love a good small cast film. We've covered small cast films in the past, and you can do so much with so little. And it is that kind of the tenacity and the overcoming the low budget kind of limitations, but by using your imagination and your originality to tell a story and to shoot it in such a way that it is interesting. And it was directed by Carla Gugino's husband.
Sebastian Gutierrez. And also he did the intro for it. And he said they filmed the whole thing in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
crazy.
I've spent longer than that doing a podcast.
We'll probably spend longer than that editing all these videos and putting them out.
Especially some of the cool, fun stuff that we get to announce. But like the fact that they did this in 3 weeks, I mean, I think it's, Carla Gugino, she's the star of the show.
Oh, absolutely.
This is like a perfect acting reel for her. This is like, this really showcases that she can do so much with almost so little. And all the scenes where she was in, which is the vast majority of them, she really steals the show.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anyone else was like actually bad, but it's really her.
There was one guy who was like, there was one line, and I was like, it's not his original accent, and he's kind of rushing through the line, and he's not got great diction.
Was that the captain?
Not the captain, but the the guy at the start who is like, I don't believe in mermaids and I don't believe in zombies, but he's actually part of the troupe, and that's the trick.
Yeah.
I think he was maybe just that line where I was like, that needed another. I think another take.
The weakest part was probably the first 10-15 minutes to film.
Yeah,
I think, and I think
it's a little slow.
Yeah, and I think maybe that kind of turned a few people off, and also that kind of the start almost gave the vibe it was going to be like a little bit of humor to it. Then when the film gets going, it's like, no, there's not really any.
Yeah, it's kind of
it's actually quite dark.
Yeah,
it's not like gory or anything necessarily, but it's like this is quite a dark film. It asks quite a lot of questions.
Yeah, it takes itself very seriously.
Yeah.
It's still a B movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's good that they do take it seriously, and it is something quite different. We see a lot of these kind of Creature from the Black Lagoon movies where it's a male creature that is trying to, impregnate with humanoids from the deep and things like that.
Yeah.
And I thought them switching up the kind of, she still mesmerizes the seamen and eats them and devours them and what have you. And she's got various plans and ideas about what she wants to do. But I like that her main focus is Carla Gugino.
Yeah.
And there is this kind of intense, like she's getting in her head and controlling her mind and making her do things and say things and acting certain ways that she wants her to. And there's like almost like a symbiotic kind of relationship. I love that.
Yeah, like it was really like getting into Carla Gugino's head and stuff. And she's reading this journal of the last person to kind of interact with her. And I also thought that the mermaid effects looked really good. I was like in the tank, I was convinced. I was like, I get this. The only qualm I really have with it is, and I don't know my own feelings on this, is that the mermaid themselves is a topless woman.
Yeah, sure.
The whole time, and I found that a bit distracting.
Okay,
but I'm kind of in two minds about it, because I'm like, well, realistically, she and the people who've captured her wouldn't care about her wearing a bra. And this isn't Little Mermaid where you just put a couple of clams on and they would stay on forever. So I'm like, actually, this is meant to be like a darker, grittier kind of period piece, more realistic of like an actual mermaid, what you would get. So I'm like, and that mermaid wouldn't care about wearing stuff. And also her whole thing is kind of luring men, which being topless would help that.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily find it was overtly male gazy beyond the amount that was necessary for the plot. So I was kind of into. I just want to raise that for most people going in. They're going, "Oh my god, there's boobs in this kind of bit." And it's like, well, it's only really her, but it is to do with her being a siren.
Yeah,
that's literally the law of.
But I think what it doesn't linger. There's no shots that linger on it. Or go. There's moments where it goes, okay, those are nipples, and she bobs back down. You don't see them. Or there's a bit where she's out of the tank, and you can see the breasts and stuff. But yeah, I even the seducing aspect is more mind control than her going like, ooh, I'm sexy.
Yeah, and it's not like overtly sexualizing in a way. She is a being that uses her sexuality to lure men.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, it's not like she's like doing anything with them. They're just there. And I was like, which is actually
she's seducing them kind of more mentally.
Yeah, with her siren song
control. Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah, it's not like, ooh, check me out, let's have sex or anything.
No,
it's more like, and the captain does stuff. He affects the course of the ship.
Yeah,
and he's like, you don't know what I've done it for her, and this and that. And there's moments where they're like just stood outside the room and they're just like, like drooling.
Almost like catatonic.
Yeah, exactly, because there's something going on in their head. And even Carla Gugino isn't looking at her like, oh, I want to have you sexually. No. It's like, there's something about you that I can't put my finger on that I'm fascinated by.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I think the mermaid tail looks really cool.
Yeah, really good.
Really good in and out of the water. I think that the way the camera works in this is really good. Like, if you didn't tell me the film was done in 3 weeks, I would think it's still a B movie, but I wouldn't have gone like, it didn't feel like it was that rushed. I feel like
the story and the backstory of Carla Gugino's character, I think again, world building is really good in it.
I could tell it was limited budget.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like it was limited time, apart from there are only because, again, the director said it in his intro thing, which is towards the end when the big sort of crescendo all happens and stuff, and there's a transformation. When that happens, there are a couple of scenes which felt a little bit rough, but it wasn't like, oh, this is like unfinished rough. This isn't like the Donna cut rough.
Yeah.
Or, some of the late Superman films. This is more like, it's a bit rushed, but one could argue, it's a budget film. And you go, okay. And I didn't feel like it took away.
No.
Really.
I think there's some choppy editing, I think, is what he's referring to. I think around when the creature finally reveals itself.
Yeah.
And like you said, I feel like they got to the end of those 3 weeks and like, we don't really have time. We've got the creature design and applications like one day.
Yeah.
So we've got to do all these shots in the one day. And there's a lot of like strobe lighting because lightning's going on, and there's a lot of shadows and stuff. I think the design of the creature is amazing, very alien inspired. They've got
the transformation scene with this beautiful woman and her turning. I was getting like, not to a lesser degree, because I think everything is a lesser degree to a bit American Werewolf in London. But I was like, quite in darkness, but like the lightning flashing, and you see like parts of her face like tweak and change and turn ugly, really.
Yeah,
and her mouth when it like snapped, and like the jaw kind of changing and stuff.
And she gets those little like piranha teeth. That's the first indication that she's like transforming into something else.
100%.
And the eyes and everything. And I like those kind of like upper fins she has. And then her spine has like some like spiked piranha.
And it was kind of almost like a coral reef beast. It felt very much like a creature of the deep.
Oh, absolutely. They call her the queen of the lair, wasn't it? The queen of the mermaids. And that's who she, spoilers, turns out to be.
It's also with the film is, I find that, again, linking back to what I commented about the mermaid being topless and stuff like that, I was like, and granted it might be because the director is married to Carla Gugino, but like there is one or two sex scenes with her, but for 2001 especially, they don't feel male gaze. They feel more progressive than a lot of sex scenes in modern day. Like, she doesn't have to be showing lots of stuff. It's really, we can clearly see what is going on. It doesn't need to be gratuitous or anything like that.
And again, I like that because it's, I did a podcast not so long about weird sex scenes, and some of them are like sort of problematic. And usually it's the bloke like, thinking about something, like in Munich when Eric Bana's thinking about all the stuff he's experienced or done, and he's having like a weird kind of strange sex scene. He doesn't know where he is and that sort of thing. Or, they start choking. The woman's like, please stop. But it's actually, I like that they flip it.
She's got the power.
Yeah.
Carla Gugino.
She's on top. She's on top. And they talk about a sex scene where she was a bit rougher, and then we kind of see the following sex scene. And then she starts choking him because the mermaid's affecting her and how she interprets the world. And then he's like, no, stop. Instead of going like, oh, I like this. He goes,
he's like, oh, you're literally actually killing
it's not
me.
even like kinky. This is like, you're hurting me now.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, the film, even though we've mentioned the sex scene to the topless woman, it's really not about that.
No, absolutely.
This is a psychological, a small cast, claustrophobic, like basically one location, psychological thriller with a mythological monster element in a period piece. And it's like, that's a lot of stuff to juggle. And I genuinely, I really do think it works in a lot of ways. It's not a perfect movie.
No.
And I can understand why some people wouldn't be as fussed by it. But I'm like, I feel like if this got released on like Netflix,
Do well.
I think the IMDb rating would shoot up to near much close to a 7.
I think if you maybe had anybody else in the main role, I don't know how well it would work.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the people in it are fine, the rest of the actors and stuff.
I could take Ollie of Rufus Sewell.
Yeah, he's fine. Like, he's got an Irish accent, which varies and stuff. But I think she, and obviously they got married, so clearly he saw something in her, or was already together with her at the time. But she's phenomenal. I think she's again, to make another pun, she's the anchor in the film, like Richard Harris. If you don't have that performance, you got almost nothing.
100%. Yeah, the Richard Harris references are referring to our Orca review, just to clarify, which will also be on this feed. But yeah, I don't think there's much else to say which wouldn't just overtly spoil the film, really. But I just think I feel like the plot works, the characters and the motivations work, the fact that they're trapped on a boat and what they're kind of doing works. The monster is amazing, and the way that all kind of turns works. It's tense because I'm like, although I wasn't necessarily invested in all the other characters, I was invested in Carla Gugino's character, and I was like, I want her to be okay. Yeah. And I don't know if I want Rufus's character to live or die, but I'm excited to see what happens to him. Yeah. And then the rest of the crew, I'm like invested enough because it's not at points it shows they probably are not great people, but like to begin with, you're like, oh, if these guys start dying, it's actually like, oh, if you start losing your crew on a big sail on a big ship, that can be detrimental. Yeah. You need a certain amount of people to sail the ship. Sure. And as it goes on, I'm like, it felt like all the deaths were like earned. It felt like the whole plot was actually quite well thought out. Visual effects are good.
I think the characters' rationale for what they're doing as well makes absolute 100% sense to 100%. Me. And that's also, some of them are being manipulated by the mermaid. Yes. But even when they're not, it all makes. There's no point. Unlike Orca that we talked about, where we're like, why is that character doing that? For what reason do they need to do that?
I was immersed in this the whole time.
Oh yeah.
I was believing it all the entire time.
Yeah.
So I think this for me is one of the highlights of the festival because obviously we didn't know what it was. Came out of nowhere. I've never heard of it at all, and it's just it's different while feeling familiar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily overtly unique, but it's I've not really seen that many mermaid things that are good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you may have seen a couple, but I often find they're either ridiculous over the top CGI stuff that doesn't look good or overtly too sexualized.
I think there's been a few. I think there's one called The Lure, and there's because I've considered doing a mermaid month at one point, like a theme month, and looking at that because there is some variety.
I'm sure there is. I've just not really seen.
But yeah, I think they've been like through the modern lens and through feminist film. I think they have been recontextualized and reinterpreted. In modern day, but it's not a genre that you see outside of like kids stuff like Little Mermaid.
Well, that's it.
You very rarely see this kind of version of a mermaid, the kind of horror or kind of disturbing mythological take on them. But yeah, it's the few and far between. But there would definitely be enough for me to do a theme month on it. But which I may do at some point in the future. But yeah, it is unique, and it's not like super modern or super old. It's kind of somewhere in the middle where it's kind of it's riffing on the 80s stuff, but we've also not quite made it to the super CGI era as of yet. So it's kind of a wonderful kind of like memento or like,
sounds like a time capsule.
Time capsule is the word I was looking for. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I think I was a little tired at that point. I think the tiredness was hitting me, so I don't think I was like. I mean, I was fully on board for Orca because I knew Orca and I'm familiar with it. But I think by that point I was kind of like,
I could see you struggling.
Yeah,
well, I think everyone was struggling in the cinema. I was like, this has actually woken me up. I was struggling with all.
And you asked me like, what do you think the film is and what do you think it could be? And I was like, well, they want to keep the theming. Ty talks about how popular the thing is in requests and stuff, and I was like, what's underwater? And they did release a post saying we're not going to show these films. But then one guy was like, I think I know what it is, and he was like, well, Ty asked the audience and he said, I think I know what it is, but you said you won't do it. I think it's a red herring. I think you're going to do this. It was the same one I mentioned, which was Leviathan, which I almost covered a few years ago, but it wasn't that, and I was kind of, in a way,
I was glad it wasn't that because I was like, you've seen almost every film at this festival, and I'm like, oh, good. There's at least another film. Basically, this and Whale God are pretty much the only two.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah. But I would say, unfortunately, She Creatures is very difficult to find.
Yeah.
I think in America you can watch it on HBO Max. I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if in the UK, because generally most HBO stuff in the UK is on either Sky or Now TV. So I will be checking that when I go home, and I'll try and remember to put a note in the description for UK listeners just to say if you can watch this anywhere, because I genuinely. And again, it's a real tight film. It's not like overly long. It's a tight. It's good pacing, good structure of it, and it just works in so many ways. And again, one film I'd compare it to a degree is The Others with Nicole Kidman, which is really it's her. Nicole Kidman is that film.
Yeah.
And in this, it's Carla Gugino is the film.
It's a lead performance film that
100%.
ties it all together. But and I was thinking about The Shape of Water, which I still haven't seen.
I fucking hate that film.
But
I hate it. And I love Guillermo del Toro. I think that is by far his worst movie. By far.
Christ, okay.
I know everyone bummed it, and I think it's the greatest thing he's ever done. And I genuinely think there's bits in it that I like. Michael Shannon is amazing in it. And on paper, the cinematography is good. Sure. The script is fairly good. But the whole plot is about a woman fucking a fish. And I literally can't get over that. And it's trying to make it more human. But I'm like, you can make part of the film is literally speaking sign language, which is in the trailer and stuff. But it's like, you can teach a chimpanzee sign language. It doesn't mean you can fuck it. And I just cannot. I just can't get over that. I cannot get over the fact
that's our clip. That's our clip for the reels for TikTok.
It's just one of those things. And no shame on Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. And again, Abe in the Hellboy films is one of my favorite characters. He's amazing, but he is a different species. If you get a bonobo ape who can communicate with a human, you shouldn't have sex with it. It's just one of those things.
I think Rhea Carrigan might disagree with you here with her interests in certain characters.
Maybe.
Like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, especially.
Yeah, but he's a human, though. He's a human that's been cursed.
But
the Shape of Water isn't.
But would she, if he hadn't had the curse lifted, would she still be with him?
But the thing is that it's still a human.
Yes.
The aesthetics of it. Sure. If you change the outer shell of what a human looks like, but it's still a human, that is different.
True. Yeah.
To literally a creature that is not human. It's similar conceptually.
It's humanoid, isn't it? It's humanoid, human shaped, but it's still effectively.
That's the thing.
Species.
And it's like, I know some people probably go, well, Mike, you like Star Wars, and certain humans are with Twi'leks and things like that. And I'm like, I understand, but in the context of Star Wars, humanoid beings have integrated, and the society is all of them together. Yeah. The Shape of Water was a one-off. So I tried to be on board with it, even though I knew that was what was going to go on in the film. And I watched it, but such a huge percentage of that film is this growing love story, which you already know is going to happen because the poster is one of the last shots of the film. And you're like, but how can you have the whole plot surrounding this this progression if we all know from the start of the movie exactly where this is going? I think there's a misfire from Guillermo, but everyone loved it. And I'm the only person who's like, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. There is more to it. The characters, I won't spoil that. There is more to it.
No,
and Michael Shannon's
but there is this growing kind of community of the monster fucker community. Or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure there's another name for it as well. But that's that. And again, it's fun and it's silly and it's kind of ties in with the kind of the smutty fantasy books, the romantic kind of cover, which absolutely enjoy. If that's your thing.
But again, I would argue fairies, vampire or fairies, vampires, they are just, I know in the lore not necessarily, but even elves in Lord of the Rings, they are still humans. They are just humans that at some point in history are tweaked slightly. It's basically just a human with a certain power, or a human that can live forever. This amphibious being evolutionarily came from a completely different part of the tree of evolution. They started as a fish. Well, I know technically we started as fish, God knows how many million years ago, but it's like it's a completely different in the evolutionary chain of things. And again, I know people are going to say, "Wait, you're watching a mermaid film, and if someone wants to fuck a mermaid," I'm like, "Yeah," but I don't think that's what... So I know it's kind of it's just one of those where you should watch Shape of Water at some point. I think you'll like it more than me. And again, no shade on the cast because they're all great in it, and there are elements of the plot that are good, and there's a lot to it that is good. But
you feel this way about the Little Mermaid as well?
Well,
she starts off as a fish.
Yeah, but she turns into a human.
Yes, before anything happens.
It's what I don't. Again, I just don't.
I guess the Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast in reverse, isn't it?
Yeah, but also I do have a problem with Little Mermaid because a lot of a lot of it, even though Prince Eric is a nice guy, as we discussed, is literally like you're falling in love with a woman who can't talk. How can you even? No matter how hot this redhead is. how can you fall in love with someone who can't speak? If there are a mute, or if there's if there's actually like a legitimate thing that they can't communicate for a specific reason, like if someone needs to use sign language or that kind of thing, that can work. But this is a person, and it's what, is it like 12 hours or something, or like a day?
Yeah, it's quite quick.
It's literally like,
and then that's what people make fun of.
Because this is my problem. It's like, okay, so you're a dashing prince who falls in love with a very young woman who is also that kind of Born Beautiful Yesterday thing.
Yeah.
So it's like
Born Sexy Yesterday.
Born Sexy Yesterday. So it's like, it's a beautiful red-headed woman who doesn't know anything about the modern world in outside of the ocean, who literally cannot say a word, and you've only got like a day with her. And so that's my issue. And I have that with my biggest gripe in so many movies, especially superhero movies, is falling in love with someone in like a day or two.
Yeah.
Go for a traumatic event and suddenly you're in love.
Yeah.
And I just don't, if it's a couple of weeks, I can get it.
Sure.
But a day, I can't.
I think like back in the day, you know, it was very much a love at first sight, or lust at first sight, however you want to call it. There are a lot of problems with The Little Mermaid. I still like it, but there are, I think we did it in Disney discussions.
Yeah. And no slight on anyone who likes Little Mermaid. All people who like Shape of Water, I know I'm in the minority here, and that's really a me thing of like, I just couldn't get over that one part of it.
That was one kind of mental block you just couldn't get past.
I've really tried to.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I've heard it's very good. But I did recall that, and like the trailers for that, and the idea of it being kind of flipped, you know, the kind of flipping of the because he's like in like Creature from the Black Lagoon, he's after the woman, because he's lonely and wants to be in love and blah blah blah. But in that, I think she pushes it, doesn't she? She's the lead. She takes the lead. I think again, a little bit of my issue. Maybe we'll have to watch it and tackle it on your show and see if I change my view. But part of it is like it's a period-ish piece several decades ago. She can't speak, so she has to use sign language, and kind of the draw of it is that this creature learns signs so she can communicate with it. But it's like, so it's kind of almost like, oh, no one else can understand me, so I'm falling in love with this fish guy. And I'm like, right, you're in like the 50s or 60s. You're not in like, 1000 BC AD. The sign language exists because you literally learnt it. You can meet other people who've got sign language. The only option isn't just this fish. So that's, but I'll volunteer at some point if you want to tackle that. I'll rewatch it. Maybe
I'll watch it, and I'll see if Megan feels the same. To see if she can get over that. But maybe I'm not sympathetic enough. No. Maybe it's like, but
I think it's a it's a very unconventional love story, which I think is there are a lot of very conventional love stories and very unconventional love stories in cinema. But Guillermo del Toro always pushes the envelope in all of his films, and I think that's him going, I want to really see what the Creature of the Black Lagoon would do in a consensual kind of scenario, but when somebody wants to be with them, as
they seek them out,
attacked,
the other way around.
All the problematic stuff. But I get your point. I get you. I completely see why. But it doesn't. The idea doesn't bother me as much. But again, that
maybe we'll see when you see the film.
Yeah, exactly. I can't really speak. I'm recalling it from trailers and stuff.
Exactly, and the film was long as well. It's like 2.5 hours.
Sure.
But so she creatures. I like she creatures. I think it's hugely underrated. If you can see it anywhere, and again, I'll try and put these in the description. Please go watch it. Because I genuinely really enjoyed the movie. And again, Carla Gugino is phenomenal. So I think that's the most of it. So, friends, thank you so much for listening to this She Creatures and the Shape of Water the mermaid discussions.
Murky depths we got into there.
Yeah, again, we're at the Forbidden World Film Festival 2025. This will be out after the festival has finished. But myself and Spider Dan are tackling almost every film that is going on at that festival. I think Blood Tide is the only one we're not, because I tackled Young Sherlock Holmes a couple of weeks prior to the festival. Dan tackled that ages ago.
Yes, I did a letterboxd review. So if you want to know my opinion, to go on my letterboxd and read the review. The star of Blood Tide actually shared and liked my stories and posts, which was very nice.
Which is good fun. Yep. So, and again, Blood Tide is what Dan said, which I have. But every other film, including all the short films as well, we're going to be doing reviews on, videos on. We've got some really cool interviews coming out and other exciting stuff as well. But please follow me at Genuine Chit-Chat on all the social media places. There's the video version of this is on YouTube. The audio version of this is on any podcast app. Same with Spider and the Secret Bores. We're doing alternate things. So all of the films are going to be reviewed between our podcasts.
Do not come at me or Mike and go, where's that review when you're speaking to Mike?
Yeah.
And he'll go, it's on this channel, my channel, and vice
we're
versa.
on YouTube. We're going to make playlists as well, which are going to have both of all our videos on that, including the ones we did a few weeks ago.
We'll tag Forbidden Worlds and everyone else involved in those.
Follow
things.
Forbidden Worlds Film Festival.
Please
we're doing this because we want to help this incredible independent festival, and it is really, Ty and Dave and everyone involved have done such an excellent job.
Correct.
Today is now the last day of the festival, so we're finishing this, then we're going for the last day. It's been absolutely incredible so far. So many great surprises.
It's gone by so fast as well.
I know. Yeah. But also the sleep deprivation is probably part of that. That's staying up very late to record.
They just feel like one really
big day.
long event. But
yes,
but
follow Forbidden Worlds Film Festival, support where you can, all that great stuff. Like, subscribe, comment, start a conversation with us. We'll both happily talk about anything.
If you disagree with Mike on The Shape of Water,
please
let him know. Tell him he's wrong.
Tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to. I need to hear other people's opinions on Shape of Water to try and maybe balance my fiery opinions on it out. But friends, thank you so much for tuning in as always, and we'll speak to you very soon.